Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. In this video I will play a short clip of Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, speech at the United Russia Party. He's going to have a 20-minute speech. I will play about maybe a minute, in which Vladimir Putin is going to tell us the Russians' position in the global environment, and is going to determine that the US hegemony is collapsing and it's over. He's going to explain what's going on the macro level here. Now, why do I do this? It's because we have these media operatives in the West telling us one side of the story, very narrow side, by omitting other realities, other events, other statements, other actions. In order to understand a situation, you have to look at it from as many angles as possible. In this case, I will have two articles and a video. I will play, as I said, the video first and then the articles. I will discuss them and what the Russians are saying about what's going on this planet. You can take it or leave it. But if you want to know what's going on in a little quarrel, you want to find out what the other side, how the other side sees the quarrel. What is your problem? If you don't, and if you think that only you know what the problem is, you will not going to solve the problem, because I think that's one of the points why these guys don't get engaged again with the Russians. They don't want to solve the problem. All right. So here is as I said, about 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, let's say, where he's going to explain what's going on the planet, what's Russia doing, and what the hegemon, the United States of America, is trying to do. So let's go.
The world is undergoing a profound and irreversible transformation. New centers of power are forming. The principles of multipolarity are being consolidated, and the Global South is playing an increasingly noticeable role. Russia stands at the center of these dynamic and profound processes. We are establishing mutually beneficial partnerships with countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. We are strengthening our cooperation with leading powers, such as China and India, and with our neighbors in the Eurasian Economic Union, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and of course within the framework of the Union State. We will continue to strengthen these alliances and ties. At the same time, we see that the unipolar world, based on the dominance of a single power, is a thing of the past. Yet the former hegemon refuses to accept this reality. Attempts to preserve global dominance at all costs have led to an escalation of chaos in international relations. The instigators of such actions are willing to sacrifice anyone and anything to maintain their influence, people, countries, entire continents. We see this vividly in the example of Ukraine, where the Ukrainian people have been turned into cannon fodder in a war against Russia. This is a tragic situation for the entire Ukrainian nation, which has become a hostage of the neo-Nazi regime established with the direct participation of the so-called collective West. It is clear that Western benefactors are trying to prolong this conflict as much as possible.
Yeah, they try to prolong, and the benefactors, the hegemon. Now it's up to you to look at this as propaganda, as the Russian version of what's going on. But I think you need to listen to the other side to see how they see things. Now, just observe an observation. Do you like that? Or you like the business, entertainment, US kind of, how should I put it? You might like what's going on here when you see the presidents coming here and everybody is euphoric and everybody is pointing their finger like they know one another and all this fake. Or you want that adult-like looking, sober speech. I like this one, but hey, it's a preference. That's a preference. I think that's one adult in a room full of baboons, infantiles, like Baerbock, Boris Johnson, Stratz, whatever her name was, remember her? You got Scholz, you got Macron, you got Biden, you got Trump, you got Starmer, you got, who did I miss? Many others. So my friends, this is what he said. Now you look at it and analyze it or put it together with what you know and pay attention. Pay attention, is that so? So Russia is trying to, and successfully, gathered a number of other countries in the BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation, and they're trying to do it with their Belarus and with Kazakhstan and their little, whatever they have over there, defense alliance, like a little NATO, with some former Soviet, how do you call them, states, not states, used to be part of socialist states, I don't know how you call them nowadays, but anyway, countries, and they're trying to expand. He didn't mention Europe, he didn't mention North America, he said South America, Asia, and the South, Africa. So then he said, we're going to oppose these guys, and they're trying to cling to every little provocation in order to maintain their hegemony. So that's the first one. The second one, I will show you the address of Vladimir Putin at the Russian Defense Ministry Board. I'm not going to play a video, it's not a video, it's an article, and I'm going to show you a few, or I'm going to read for you a few of his statements. Bloodshed, chaos, and US manipulation. Putin paints grim global picture at defense meeting. So let's go and see what's going on here. He's going to talk about US aspirations for world dominance. Putin described the global military political climate as both challenging and unstable, pointing to ongoing conflicts and heightened tensions in multiple regions. And I'm quoting, "Today, the military political situation in the world remains challenging and unstable." He highlighted the persistent violence in the Middle East and the growing risk of conflict elsewhere. And I'm quoting, "The bloodshed in the Middle East does not cease, and there is a significant conflict potential in several other parts of the world." And I'm quoting right here. "The US imposes its so-called rules on the international community, constantly changing and manipulating them as it sees fit. For them, the only stable rule is that there are no rules." End quote. It's up to you to see if that's imbecilic or if that's accurate. And I'm quoting, "We see that the US administration and the collective West relentlessly trying to preserve their dominance. They trying to preserve, pushing their rules on the global community and manipulating them as they see fit." End quote. The US is initiating the creation of new alliances that disrupt the established security architecture. And this is very important when he talks about the US population. Under the pretext of so-called Russian threat, the US frightens its population by claiming we are planning to attack someone. The tactic is simple. They push us to the red line beyond which we cannot retreat. And when we respond, they escalate fears of a Russian threat. We have clarified the basic principles for the use of nuclear weapons, as outlined in the updated Foundations of State Policy in the area of nuclear deterrence. Let me stress again, we are not rattling nuclear weapons. This is a policy of deterrence. That means red line, this is what's gonna be. He says here, We have repeatedly warned that the termination of this treaty would negatively impact global security, that is, deployment of mid-range or short-range missiles. Putin stressed Russia has voluntarily refrained from deploying intermediate and shorter-range missiles as long as American systems of these types are not stationed anywhere in the world. We have already discussed the risk of US deploying intermediate-range missiles in Europe and the Asia Pacific. We will respond comprehensively, I don't like this comprehensively word, to such threats, with the priority being the timely detection and interception of missile launchers. That's one. We're going to go to Russia today. West pushing Russia beyond, quote-unquote, red line. The continued support for Russia is aimed at inflicting a strategic defeat on Moscow, the president says. Washington is pushing fear in Americans by resorting to simple tactics, Putin stated. And I'm quoting, they push us to the red line, we begin to respond, and then they frighten their population, he added, suggesting that the US used the same approach during its rivalry with the Soviet Union. The number of American servicemen members in Europe has already exceeded 100 troops. So the Americans are occupying Europe? No. They're protecting Europe. NATO is boosting its presence not only in Europe, but also in regions that have never seen this type of military footprint, particularly the Asia Pacific, Putin said, voicing particular concerns over US plans to deploy missile systems with a range of up to 5,500 kilometers. However, he says, if the United States begins to deploy such systems, then all our voluntary restrictions will be lifted, he warned. I would like to bring these statements from that bad guy to you. You may disagree with everything he says. This is my advice. And I know that if you're here in the minute, I don't even know, 13, that means you want to know and you are knowing already. But nevertheless, for the ones that are right now cursing or, I don't know, being very upset about it, go and look. Verify what he said. Take some time out of your burger eating or sucking that pop in, or who knows what else, and go and check and see if it's true. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes materia cenușie. So you need to use something. So, my friends, thank you very much for being with me again today. I think that this guy, the bad guy that we are all supposed to hate now, like other guys in history, because they tell us to do it, I think he's an adult in the room full of infantiles. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.